is how do we find the right talent? And understanding that hiring is not a science, it's an art. A lot of people are scared about having a vacancy. They're like, I will never be able to hire anybody. The job market's tight. No one does what I do.
So can you kind of talk me through the pain points of a business owner, not sure when to hire, how to hire, when to spend the money, and when they're just cheap?
The realization is that there's a time to grow that costs money, and there's a time to prepare for transition, and that's when you want to pad your EBITDA. When you're growing, you're going to have to accept a lower EBITDA, and that takes money, that takes investment. So understanding that, meaning you're an owner, you're working 80 hours, you're pulling in good salary, most of it is because you've generated it, and the thought of, hey, I'm going to have to buy or hire somebody to do $200,000 to do a little bit, that's going to mean less for me, that's out of my pocket. Now we can go to the next step is how do we find the right talent? And understanding that hiring is not a science, it's an art, but what we want to do is we want to put as much of the unknowns in our favor. Do some assessment, have a job description, make sure that you interview, make sure that you have a process of how many people are going to interview. There's a model called Dependency. He talks about the first basis of any kind of teamwork is actually trust. The way he defines trust is not trust that I know what you're going to do. It's trust that I'm being vulnerable. I'm willing to say, I don't know it all. I'm humble. I need help. I messed up. I'm going to fix it. The quotes are more behaviors that I would refer to.
Are you stuck in that $3 to $10 million year-over-year revenue? Roofs in a Box is your all-in-one growth partner for modern construction companies. They combine AI, virtual staffing, and CRM solutions to help streamline operations. Replace your high fixed overhead with cost-effective systems and support. They empower you to run a smarter, leaner business, freeing up capital where it matters most. Mention this ad to save 10% on your next Roofs in a Box purchase. This episode of Pain Points is brought to you by Ringba. If your business relies on phone calls, you need to be working with them. Their technology will help you get the most money out of your marketing campaigns. Their call exchange, Ringba X, can deliver inbounds on demand to help grow your customer base. Now, I want to be transparent. Ringba and Adam did pay me to deliver that message, but I'm also a customer, and I've watched them help dozens of companies become more successful over the years. So if you sell a product or service over the phone, I guarantee a moment with their team will be worth it. All right, man. Welcome to another episode of Pain Points, where real pain equals real growth. Today, we actually have one of my mentors, and just in general, Franck Saragossi. He has taught me probably more in a short span than probably, I want to say, top 2 teachers in my lifetime.
Thank you.
And that's saying a lot because I've been blessed with a lot of great people and a lot of great mentorship. He is a specialist in EOS. He helps companies implement this. But even before we get into that, let's talk about just kind of your journey in general, kind of get some street cred, so to speak, as far as where you come from, your kind of path and what you've done in business and kind of what got you to even the point you're at today with teaching.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Ed.
Yes, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here, and those kind words. Wow. I come from I'm a little bit of a mutt. I grew up on different continents. I come from an entrepreneurial family. We had hardware stores in South Africa. Then we moved to the Congo. My dad, a real entrepreneur, set up paint factories. I went to high school in the Congo. Came to the US for university. After that, after my MBA, I got a phone call from my dad, come back to the family business. I went back, started working with him and mom. And first thing I noticed is that I was just like a chicken running without a head, right? There was no structure. There was nothing going on.
Like most small business, right?
Like
Just
small
chaos.
businesses. My dad was front of the client facing. My mother was back of the house.
Yeah.
And I was in the middle, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
So that was my first aha moment. Sometime after that, my mother passed away, and then my father passed away, and there was no succession plan.
Yeah.
So basically, we sold the business for asset value. Came back to the US, started working for international companies, primarily in jewelry world. I then became general manager of Pandora Jewelry in Mexico. I set up the corporate offices. I opened 60 stores, hired 300 people, on track for 80 million in under 3 years.
And the Pandora.
The Pandora, yeah. Pandora Jewelry. And so I know what it is to have a big vision, to create a structure, hire into that structure,
Mhm.
and deliver results. So it's all about operations, it's all about strategy, it's all about having the right people.
Right.
Then I came back to the US and worked as a CEO for a footwear company. And that's where I discovered Traction, the book of EOS. And I decided that I was going to go back to my entrepreneurial roots and help family businesses get organized, scale, and prepare for legacy.
Right.
And that's what I do.
Nice, nice, nice. So let's talk about even your own growth. You may want to put the mic a little closer just because it's
Yes.
yeah,
Is that good?
it's perfect. And let's talk about some pain points
Yeah.
because you're talking about like young entrepreneurship or family owned businesses and that kind of stuff. But even like your own journey pre traction,
Yeah.
like in with the jewelry and whatnot. Can you talk about some of the pain points that you had scaling that and kind of like the one just entering a market that you're new in,
Yeah.
but then secondly, really having to kind of fumble through the processes and people and creating systems and operational flow. Have you always been a natural at it, or did you have like pain points growing up before you got to?
So, I don't think that there's anybody that really is born with the knowledge of how to grow a business. So you
Right.
learn it as you go, right?
Right.
Luckily, I had some good mentors myself. So when I was working with larger companies, I dealt with family businesses for the most part,
Yeah.
and so luckily we had a system that they were able to buy into. However, when you have family owners, especially from the jewelry business, trying to get into a Pandora jewelry, for instance, oftentimes they want to change the system because they don't believe the system works.
Right.
So they become uncoachable.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that they disregard all the processes, all the best practices, and they say, "Hey, I know better than you, and let's do it my way,"
Right.
and that inevitably leads to disaster,
Yeah.
right? So, getting into from our perspective, learning how to navigate when we entered Mexico, there was we did an Ipsos survey to find out what was our brand awareness
Yeah.
there, and it was little, it was small.
Okay.
So we had to invest a lot of money in marketing branding in order to get our brand awareness up. But the biggest challenge was really trying to find the right people.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, to get 300 people hired over 3 years, we need to have a process to actually acquire talent.
Right.
And that took us a lot of time and adjusting all the time. So one of the lessons is really come up with a process, measure it, figure out if it works or not, and then adapt it.
Right.
Right. So all constantly adapting and seeing how things work. Are we getting the outcome that we want or not? So we had hundreds of people that were interviewed, and we decided that we were not going to do in house.
Yeah.
So that whole part we actually subbed out, and then once we had the right, we hoped we had the right candidates. Then we went through our internal process to make sure that they were the right people, right fit.
I like how you're talking about the coachability of it. We're talking about this a little bit prior to the pod as well. It's kind of like you don't you have to know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. I think some of the biggest mistakes that I've seen with a lot of entrepreneurs is overvaluing themselves.
Mhm.
I think yourself included. I think most people get one promotion past their pay grade as well. And you brought up the coachability. Let's talk about that a little bit because I know you have a big emphasis on it. But what are some of the biggest struggles? I mean, I could see some of the pitfalls automatically, but can you kind of give me some stories or testimonies about people? You can leave names anonymous, but
Yeah, yeah.
kind of like if you're not coachable, kind of some of the pitfalls and like I said, collision courses that people had.
Yeah, so I think that there's really two problems, two main problems
Mhm.
when we're talking about not being able to be coached. Uh,
Enjoying the show? Like, comment, and subscribe. Pain Points is all about helping contractors and business owners avoid costly mistakes, find new opportunities, and grow profitable companies. Thank you for being part of the community. Let's build together.
Number one is that you have an oversized ego,
Yeah.
right? You know everything. You don't want to listen. We'll do it my way, and inevitably, if you know it all, then you don't need me.
Yeah.
You don't need anybody, right? And the other is that you are willing to be coached, but you're so emotionally attached to the outcome
Yeah.
that you don't want to make the right decision. You know what the right decisions are, and most of these, by the way, have to deal with people.
Yeah.
people issues, right?
Yeah.
So if you know it all, we'll put that to that side. There's not much we can do. And we very quickly realize that, hey, whatever growth path you're on, you're going to continue. There's nothing that most people are going to be able to do to enhance that.
Right.
When you're leading with people that are emotionally attached, those are the ones that we have to, there's hope for them, understanding that whatever impact they defer, it has an impact on the families. So understanding that, hey, I love Ed as an employee. He's not performing, but he's a great guy,
Yeah.
and I don't want to mess that up.
Yeah.
But there's 15 other people that work in the company with me,
Yeah.
and their lives depend on my decision on Ed.
Yes.
Right. So that's really being able to bring it up to a bigger level so that you can make the right decisions, not only for the one person, but the greater good of the organization. We use that a lot, greater good of the organization. It's making decisions for the better of the organization, not the individual, not the
Yes.
department.
Yeah.
So, when you break it down to coachability, it comes down to two things. You have to be humble and you have to be willing to make changes.
Yes.
So those are the two big criteria that I would say are important.
And especially in businesses, especially in growth, changes have to happen, right? We talk about this a lot in EOS, or you taught me this actually, as when you're doing, when you're a landscaping business doing 5 lawns a month, it's different than when you're doing 200 lawns a week.
Yeah.
Right. Aunt Susie, everyone loves Aunt Susie culturally, right? But Aunt Susie is not a bookkeeper when you're, she has no financial background, no gap accounting principles.
Yeah.
She may be a good big bookkeeper when you're doing 5 lawns.
Yeah.
But 200 Aunt Susie's a receptionist at best.
Right.
Right. And so this kind of segues into another EOS principle, which is right person, right seat. Right. It's one, having the right organizational flow.
Yeah.
And we could talk about both of these things. One, creating an org chart and hiring the right person to fit the org chart versus adapting an org chart to fit the skill sets you have. Right.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk about the right person, right seat and organizational flow and kind of your experience with this?
Yeah. Let me take a step back and give some context here, because what happens is that most companies, you have a small company, you have a founder finds a gap in the market, finds a solution for it, sells it, is successful, and he starts to scale.
Yes.
Right. So at that point, he's doing everything himself. Then he realizes, I've hit the ceiling.
Yes.
I need to change the way I work in order to be able to grow to the next level. So at that point, he has to delegate. He has to understand that he has to replicate himself in certain areas and give up things that he really does not like. He has to do because that's how he started, but really it doesn't give him energy. So to the extent that he can do that, he's going to find the right people to be able to delegate it out. In the case of,
actually, you bring up another good point, not to interrupt, but let's definitely bookmark that. When you talk about like business owners, the reason why they do it on themselves is what reasons, right? It's either what, trust or laziness. Or laziness.
Yeah. So a lot of it has to do with trust, right? So and a little bit of a control, right? I mean, when you start something and it's your baby, you've seen, it inside and out, right? To give it up to somebody that, oh my gosh, I did it this way and he's going to mess it up or she's going to mess it up. Yeah. That's not a good thing, right? In their minds. So the first person you delegate, most entrepreneurs, finance is not necessarily their thing. They love the idea. They love going out there. They're good relationship people, right?
Yeah.
Dealing with the books is not necessarily their joy.
Yes.
And passion. So that's where Aunt Mary comes in.
Yeah.
Enter Aunt Mary. She's part of the family. I trust her, right? She's a bookkeeper. She's going to do my books.
Yes.
Fantastic. You're at $500,000 of sales. You grow to $5 million of sales. Now, all of a sudden, Aunt Mary is still your bookkeeper, but she's been promoted to controller.
Yes.
She has to do a lot more than just bookkeeping.
Yes.
And now, all of a sudden, she's your bottleneck.
Yes.
Because when you said before the Peter principle, that's exactly it. You're promoted to one level above your capacity. Yeah. And that becomes a bottleneck. Yes. So, there's a saying I use a lot. You can't read the label if you're inside the bottle.
Yes.
Right. So that's why from the outside, you can look at it and say, hey, this is your problem. Yeah. This is your constraints. How do you solve that?
I think intuitively, most business owners know Aunt Mary is the bottleneck. But like you said, they're so emotionally attached to Aunt Mary that they don't want to let Aunt Mary down. Aunt Mary's been loyal. Aunt Mary's a good person.
And
I
you
love
trust
Aunt
her.
Mary.
She's taking care of my books.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
So that's the emotional part that we're talking about before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a pain point that has to be conquered to grow.
I think that's all small business. And I think what happens in what you're saying, at least my experience with it, is most people are, when they have an idea, the owner is usually the best salesperson. And then what happens is you kind of get to this accidental level of success, right? You get to this $3 to $5 million threshold. You never thought you were going to get to that 3 to 5 million, but now what do I do that I'm here?
Yeah.
Right. And now all of a sudden I don't have systems and processes. I am the systems and process. Everything's in here.
Yes.
Right. How do I get this out for everyone to understand? And it's this constant battle of maybe I can Bondo and bailing wire my way to 8, but I really don't have something that's replicable.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of the whole thing is like with most business owners, why they can't exit. They are the asset.
Yes.
Right. I am the brand. I am the reason for the success. So if I get hit by a bus, business goes away.
100%. I got this case right now. A very successful business owner doing 8 digits in sales. 75% of sales come through him.
Yeah.
Right. The owner dependency is all over this. Right.
Yes.
So he's the asset.
Yes.
No one's going to want to buy because if he leaves, they're dead.
Yeah.
Right. There's nothing to buy.
Yeah.
So owner dependency gets to a point where when you start realizing that and recognizing it, then you can start saying, okay, now what do I need to do?
Yes.
And then you get into, okay, I've always done this way, and I know it works. Am I going to give it up? And the only way to give it up is actually to download what you have in your brain, just as you said, write the processes down so that somebody can follow it and replicate your success.
Yeah.
And then it's a matter of having the right person hired that is the right person's right seats.
So you brought up another issue that I've seen with entrepreneurs. Some of them are amazing salespeople, and some of them are amazing operationally.
Correct.
I feel like maybe the operational people could technically architect, get their thoughts out on paper for this is the roadmap of how it's at least kind of sort of supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Probably still off, but at least the ability to articulate it.
Yes.
A lot of this good salespeople that I've seen are a lot more like me, ADHD galore, hard to put together a complete thought or process. And that person almost doesn't really understand processes. They know they can, through pure hustle, how to do it, but they don't even have systems and processes in play to even articulate.
Yes.
Right. So how do you, so if you're at that phase and then you have owner number 2 that I just mentioned.
Yeah.
What would you suggest that person does? Because it's a lot harder to put out the process.
It is. And you know what? The beautiful thing about technology right now is that AI will help you do a lot of the processes.
Yeah.
So whereas before you really had to struggle and put pen to paper or finger to keyboard, it was difficult, especially if you're a leader that is an excellent sales person. Most founders are. They know the product better than anybody. They know how to overcome objections better than anybody else. Right. That's why they grew their company.
Right.
So now, luckily, there's a way in which we have these tools, technology tools that'll help us actually document those processes, download what we have in the brain, our successes, and put them on paper so that somebody else then just have to review it and make sure that somebody else can follow it.
Right.
Yeah. So
beautiful.
Yeah. So, this is where we can leverage technology. And by the way, it's we hear AI all over the place now. Everybody's an AI implementer. But the truth of the matter is that you can, I did this myself, Claude, what do I need to do this? And it gives me steps of how to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm still lost. Right. Yeah. So luckily I have my son that joined my business. So now he's a little bit more attuned than I am. But you still need to have somewhat of a technology or awareness to be able to do that. But the tools are there.
Yes.
So very different than even 5 years ago.
Yeah, it collapses timeframes, right? Because before, like you can't articulate it, AI does it for you.
Yes.
And you can give it 1 or 2 directions, but or at least have a roadmap or an outline.
Yes.
Of what to follow.
Correct.
Yeah. I never even thought about that because when you first started teaching me EOS, we didn't have that yet. It wasn't, at least not at the scale it is today.
Oh my gosh. And that's when just even a year ago, right? Writing processes are so important to our process, EOS process. And for any process, right, you want to sell your company, you better make sure that you have everything documented, especially if you're the founder, seller, top salesperson. Your contacts, your processes, all that has to be documented.
Right.
So now you can do that. Before it was a struggle. That was always one of the weakest links components was the process. It was never documented.
Right.
Because who has the time for it?
I've still found some things, some issues, and I know this isn't where I want the rabbit hole I want to go down. But so some of the things with AI, I've seen some AI producing processes, even trying to do it on EOS principles, and the org chart is still hard to follow. It's not because it only knows what it knows.
Yes.
Right. It only
Yeah.
it combs the internet, and like for construction, for instance, I've seen like 30 different examples, and I'm like that doesn't work for me.
Right.
And then so even with AI, at least it gives you a general template. It doesn't, but it's not perfect.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I heard a great percentage ratio, 10, 80, 10. 10% is when you use AI, 10% you put in the prompts, 80% you let AI do the work, 10% on the back end, you verify.
Yeah.
Make sure that it makes sense that because they don't have the knowledge that we do, right?
100%.
At the end of the day, 25, 30 years of being in the market, although it's super intelligent, the emotional part doesn't always jive with how do you actually implement this when you're dealing with people. So, and accountability chart is all about people.
Yeah.
Right. It's all about having the right structure. So you have to overcome that for sure. The best way to do that, obviously, is to sit down, see what works for you. The way we do it is we start with a blank sheet, right? If you're a consultant, not in your business, you don't have the emotional ties to the people.
Yes.
How would you set this up? If you're a roofing company of $10 million, $5 million, how would you set this up?
I love that question because it really does take out the emotion.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think with most people, it's hard not to do. I'm paying someone 6 figures, so I'm going to put them in this role because that's what I'm paying them to do. Right. You're so attached to the outcome or the output of the personality that you put there. Right.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you do this org chart or this, I like to call it more an accountability chart than an org chart, but you intuitively know a lot. And yet even what you know by doing this practice, you still shove people into roles they shouldn't be in.
Absolutely. And that's why when we go through the exercise, we actually say you're all fired.
Yeah.
Right. You're not part of the organization. You're consultants to a company similar in the same industry, similar revenue.
Right.
How would you set it up? And that forces us to think on structure first, people second.
Yes.
Not that people are not important, but in this exercise, the structure is more important and you're looking forward 6 months because right now you're stuck.
Yeah.
Right now you've hit the ceiling. So whatever you have now, don't replicate it because you're not going to make progress.
Right.
So you have to think, okay, what's the right structure? Take away all the names, all the people, and say, how would I structure this in 6 months from now? Okay. So by November of 2026, how should this look? Okay. And now you can work towards something. And once you have the right structure that makes sense from a purely structure perspective, now you can look at your bench strength and say, do you have the right people? Okay. Who can I bring up? Who can sit? And when we go through that exercise, oftentimes what we find is that a lot of people are doing a lot of different things that overlap. Yeah. And that's what we want to break away from. Yeah. And we want to reassign those. So I'm sitting 100% doing one thing and not sitting in 2 seats.
That way you can't go like this and point blame.
That's right.
2 people are doing the same thing. No one's accountable.
That's correct. So absolutely, that's one of the no-nos. You can't have 2 people in 1 seat. You can have 1 person in 2 seats, which means that you have a capacity problem, right? Yeah. And I like to take the example, take 2 seats physically and say, okay, sit in 1 seat and sit in the other seat. The other one's vacant, right? So you're doing a part-time job here.
Yes.
So that's important to recognize that it doesn't work on the org chart when you're sitting in 2 seats or 3 seats. It works temporarily, but that's why you're stuck. So
before we go down this, because I did this earlier, trying to go down like giving the cheat sheet to the syllabus. So I'm a roofing company, let's say, and I'm at $3 to $5 million in top line revenue, maybe 8 because I got lucky. What's the first thing that you suggest this business owner does as far as, because like you said, I'm bottlenecked. I'm my own problem. I can't get out of my own way. I'm in too many seats. I'm working 60, 80 hours a week. I can't take a vacation unless I don't build roofs because I'm also the guy with the GC license and I'm the only one that understands production. So I'm kind of in this world of like, I don't know how to grow. I think I want to grow, but right now I'm stressed.
Yeah.
I come to you, say, Frank, help me.
Yeah.
Is the org flow, the org chart, hiring them as a consultant the first thing you would do, or what would be your first step with the owner?
My first step would absolutely look at the accountability chart and look at it and say, hold on, let's take a step back here. Right. And by the way, this is the challenge. If you're working 80 hours, who's going to take half day, a full day to actually take a step back and look from outside of your business? It's tough. But that's what's needed in order to get unstuck. So start with the accountability chart and map out the ideal accountability chart, not far in the future, just 6 months out. Right. Once you have that, then you can say, hold on, and now put places who's doing these functions. And once you go through that exercise, you realize that you're sitting in too many of them.
I have yet to see an owner not sit in a minimum of 4 seats. Minimum.
And absolutely. And this is when we go through this this exercise, that's the aha moment. Because you realize, no wonder I'm like running with my hair on fire, right? That's why I have no hair. But that's what happens is that you have an awareness and you say, wow, okay, now I understand. Now I have to fix it. How am I going to prioritize? So now's the next step. Okay, what do I need to do? And oftentimes, there's a phrase that we use: right people, right seats, right people on the bus. Oftentimes, you have to get the wrong people off the bus before you can bring the right people on.
So let's talk about that right now, because I feel like this is where the emotional attachment is. Two reasons. One, I'm paying them too much. And so I think I want to put them there. Two, I don't know who else can do it even if I think it's half-ass. At least I got somebody doing something. Right. But let's talk about right person, right seat. And then and I know the answer to this because I'm living proof of it. But how soon do we get rid of this person? How do you, well, first let's get into identifying right person, right seat. I like the principles of, asking to get it, want it, capacity kind of questions, but talk me through right person, right seat. And then secondly, the benefit of putting someone there and or removing somebody that's shouldn't be.
So very high level, what it means is there's two components to anybody in a job, right? Number one is that, do they get along with everybody? Are they a right fit for the organization?
Culturally.
That's a cultural fit, right? So that's the first thing we have to make sure that we have, and those are tied to the core values. So if you haven't defined your core values, step one, define your core values and put them succinctly in 3 to 5, right? No more than that. I've seen organizations have 8 to 10. It's like, how can you even gauge that? It's too many. So 3 to 5 core values, that determines those behaviors are what define your culture. That's the right fit person. I love to work with Ed. He's always on time. He always responsible, takes the initiative. Whatever your core values are, those are them that have to be lived.
And you have to live it. You have to eat, breathe, and sleep those core values.
They have to be lived. You have to hire, fire, promote, reward based on that. The second component to anybody doing a good job in a job is, are they getting the job done? Are they, do they understand what has to happen sitting in this job? Do they have the experience? Do they want to be there? Right? That's all passion. So when you combine those two things, you have a right person, right seat. So when you look at it from these two components, you have 4 options: right person, right seat. I love to work with Ed, and he does a kick-ass job. Right. And then there's another person that love to work with her, but she's not doing what she should be doing. She's underperforming. So in a growing company, you're going to try and find the right seat for that person. You have a person that is not a good fit, but does a great job, right? These are people that they bring in the sales, they do what they're supposed to do, but my gosh, is there trauma there? Is there no team spirit, not getting along with anybody? So
I call them cancers.
Cancers, right? Those are the rotten apples in your bucket, and they are cultural misfits. And they're toxic.
But they produce income. So you're almost thinking, okay, there's revenue attached to this.
I'm going to live with that, right? And whatever we tolerate, we accept, and that's a problem because that sends a message to everybody. I can be a terrible person, but as long as I bring in what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm okay. I've given a pass. This happens all the time, right? In my prior life, we had top salespeople, $1 million writers that were terrible as team players. They didn't keep their place in the jewelry business. They didn't look for the stock. They didn't do the admin work. They were exempt. They thought they were exempt, and they were given a pass because they brought in the sales. Terrible, 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 right?
I agree.
And the third one is you have wrong person, wrong seats. The person is a cultural misfit and not producing. And the question becomes, why even paying them? Right?
And a lot of it just to occupy the seat because you're almost underwater and because you just want somebody there versus nobody.
So that's a great point, Ed, is that a lot of people are scared about having a vacant seat. Right? They're like, I will never be able to hire anybody. The job market's tight. My job or my company is snowflake. No one can, I'm unique. No one does what I do. And I'm here to tell you that we opened jewelry stores where there were 3,500 people. Turks and Caicos is a prime example, right? It's a cruise ship destination. That's all it is, right? We had to open the store. Where do we find them? We looked at the core transferable behaviors. We wanted people to be smiling. We wanted people to be helpful. We wanted people that were curious. We wanted people that were outgoing. Where do we find them? Bartenders, hotel hospitality, right? So you go outside of your niche and you find the transferable skills, and that's where you look for them. The truth matters that in the United States, we could probably no one's indispensable, right? We can find people. So it just takes a little bit of effort. And when you have a owner that's working 80 hours already, hair on fire, you want to load him with finding some more people, the right people, is like, I'll just deal with the people I have right now. And that's a problem.
So you brought up another good point, and I see this with a lot of business owners, right? And I've seen this with myself in my own growth, right? I don't want to give away any of my money, right? And so I get to this point, and I know that this person may cost me $200,000 a year, but I've hired people, the wrong people, and I just wasted 20, 40, 50,000 hiring that person, if not more. So I'm just going to do it myself. I don't want to. It's almost like this greedy kid making this impossible as for Santa Claus. So I feel like one of them is finding the talent. And then two is not knowing the numbers on what this person can actually bring to you. So can you kind of talk me through the pain points of a business owner, not sure when to hire, how to hire, when to spend the money. And also more importantly, I feel a lot of them aren't even the if and when, they're just cheap. Right?
So, the realization is that there's a time to grow and it costs money. And there's a time to prepare for transition. And that's when you want to pad your EBITDA, right? So when you're growing, you're going to have to accept a lower EBITDA. And that takes money. That takes investment. So understanding that, meaning you're an owner, you're working 80 hours, you're pulling in good salary. Most of it is because you've generated it. And the thought of, hey, I'm going to have to buy or hire somebody to do $200,000 to do a little bit, that's going to mean less for me. That's out of my pocket. So once they're comfortable with that realization, now we can go to the next step is how do we find the right talent? And understanding that hiring is not a science, it's an art. But what we want to do is we want to put as much of the unknowns in our favor. So do some assessment, have a job description, make sure that you interview, make sure that you have a process of how many people are going to interview.
Which actually goes back to the org chart too, right? Because if you don't have a process or a job description, you don't even know, you're hiring somebody to Pandora or fill in a spot that you don't even have a description of.
Absolutely.
So how are you going to hire somebody that you don't even know what you're hiring for?
100%. When you ask most entrepreneurs, hey, do you have a process to hire people? And they're like, what do you mean? I saw Jack, and he was a great guy. I know him from my church or synagogue. It doesn't matter. He's a good guy. I trust him. I want to hire him. Right. So you're hiring the person before actually looking at your org chart and seeing, hey, this is a seat I'm trying to fill. These are the roles that define that seat. I need to hire for that. Right.
And I think there's another thing that you're talking about, hiring the people. And this is one of the things I tell, even with my own companies. If I'm a mature company and I have processed some people, I may not mind coaching one person, especially on the L10 level or on the leadership level, one person that may lack a skill or something that we can teach. But I think the biggest mistake is trying to mentor an entire team, and with everyone missing one or two things of getting it,
Yeah.
yet alone the capacity. And now all of a sudden you have 3 or 4 roles on the bus that aren't the right people yet,
Yes.
and you're trying to nurture and develop and teach everyone on the team.
Yeah.
Can you kind of walk through that pain point? Because I've done it, but I've also now it's kind of funny. I see other people doing it, and I understand the train wreck that's about to happen.
Yeah. So I think so. There's several things here. Number one is that there has to be a realization that a lot of companies want to have, hey, we hire from within, right?
Yeah.
We promote from within. And that's a beautiful culture to have. The smaller the company, the more difficult it is,
Right.
right? Because as you grow, you need to have a different skill set.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, there's only two options. One is that the person that's sitting there has a capacity to learn fast enough in order to bridge that gap.
Yes.
Or number two is that, and the faster way is you're gonna have to hire from outside somebody that's been there, done that,
Yes.
right? So that is a business decision that you have to have. But if you have a majority, or you have four people out of on your bus that don't have the capacity, and when we say capacity, meaning that they don't fit the seat 100%,
Yeah.
they're still learning.
Yeah.
If you make that choice, you better be patient.
Yes.
Because it's going to take 2 or 3 years for them to get to full capacity.
Yes.
Right. So that's an important decision, business decision to have. Recommended not to have all of your people.
Yes.
Ultimately, what you may want to do, especially on the leadership level, is make sure that you have the people that have been there, done that.
Yes.
Right. That you're going to scale up faster. Yeah. However, if you have people that have runways, that they're quick learners, and they're eager, and they're motivated, and they're going to take the initiative to learn what needs to be learned.
Yes.
To get there, then you have a winner.
Yeah.
But all this is change management. Most people don't like change.
Right.
There's a certain amount, there's talking about assessment, and we use culture index, and the culture index allows you to see, okay, I have a person that seems to be the right profile, but if you're growing at 20-30% a year, and the person that I've profiled feels comfortable at 5 to 10% growth a year, very soon they're going to be out of their comfort zone.
Yes.
Right. So you have to play that out. And it's so much more difficult when you're emotionally tied to it.
Yes.
And that's why it's important to have the ability to step back.
Right.
And to look at your accountability chart and your people and say, do I have the right people?
Right. You brought up a good point. I'm mentoring a company right now, for instance, that they have an integrator, which I like to hear your definition of an integrator. I've used a lot of different analogies myself, but kind of would like to hear yours. But it has an integrator that the owner wants to do 30% growth, but the integrator is comfortable with 5 to 10% growth. And so it's very interesting. You're saying it's not just the skill set, but it's also the capacity of where's my comfort level. So there's a difference from challenging someone to grow and understand and present the roadmap. But it is an integrator. I almost feel like you need your integrator to be on the same page, because for me, that's the most paramount position of the company, almost outside of the visionary.
Yeah. So let's start with a little bit of context again. I think that it's important to understand what's a visionary and what's an integrator, right?
Yes.
It's a visionary, and by the way, visionary is a EOS term. You can call it CEO, you can call it, different names, but ultimately it's a person that is very forward-looking.
Yes.
Very big picture.
Yeah.
30,000 feet, big relationships. Maybe your store salesperson looks at things and sees creatively how to solve them, full of ideas.
Yeah.
Right. This is a person that is your visionary.
Yes.
Your integrator is a person that, oh, by the way, the visionary lives in the future.
Yes.
Right.
Always
lives in the future, sees the opportunity, doesn't like to deal with being in the weeds.
Yes.
By the way, you mentioned ADD. Most visionaries have some form of ADD.
Yeah.
Right.
I think you need to.
You need to. Yeah. Your integrator is going to be the person that is in the weeds.
Yeah.
Lives the day to day, lives in the present.
Yes.
Make sure that the trains run on time. Yeah. This is a person that's operationally minded, right? Yes. So oftentimes you have a risk taker and you have more of a conservative person in the integrator. Yeah. But at the end of the day, that relationship is key.
Yes.
You need to have absolute alignment between visionary integrator, and you have to make sure that they talk often enough so that they get each other.
Yeah.
Right. So there has that you have to, number one, be aligned strategically, but you have to have that chemistry as well.
Yes.
You have to be able to deal with the brilliant ideas that a visionary has. 20 a week, 19 of them may not be great. So one of them is genius. You got to capture that one, right? And the other is that you have to act a little bit as a filter between the idea person that's constantly looking at things and come say, I just read a book. We have to implement that. I went to a seminar. We got to do this, right?
Yeah.
And if you follow that, then no one knows which direction we're going. So the integrator is the one that sort of acts as a filter and says, great idea. Let's park this for this quarter.
Yeah.
And let the team execute on the quarter. So the integrator is the one that really makes sure that we hit the rocks, we hit the 90-day business priorities, we execute the business plan.
Yes.
Right? That person is all about tactics.
Yes.
Obviously, he has some strategy.
Yeah.
But it's all about making sure that people do their jobs, right? So you need to have that relationship that's important, that alignment that's important. Have your one-on-ones, speak with your integrator, visionary on a weekly basis, on a bi-weekly basis if you need, but make sure that you're aligned. And you need to deal with that before you get into the team, right? Because otherwise, if you take your stuff, that's your misalignments, visionary integrator is going to derail all of your meetings.
I always say an integrator is more like a unicorn, especially where they sit on the org chart, because all of the leadership kind of reports to that person.
Yeah.
I always say they need to have at least basic understanding of GAAP accounting principles, because they need to talk to the CFO or the controller. They need to talk operationally. They need to be able to discuss architectural to the operations manager.
Yeah.
They need to be able to talk bullet points to the ADHD salespeople so they can, otherwise they glaze over, they don't get it.
100%.
Right. So it's a really unique unicorn kind of position, I feel.
Yeah.
That if you have the right person there, it's just a game changer for execution.
Absolutely. And, when you look at all the big companies, Microsoft, Gates, and, he had his second in command, Apple, Jobs and his second in command, right? All of these companies, a lot of them have this duo.
Yeah.
And this duo is really important. The integrator is a unicorn in certain ways, right? He has to be proficient.
Yeah.
Technically. And when I say technically, not necessarily, by the way, the specifics of job, they have to be able to lead people well.
Yes.
They need to have high EQ, right? Lead people, motivate them, push them, but also understand them, right? Be a problem solver. So that's an important character trait for a good implementer. By the way, there's a great resource, rocketfueluniversity.com. For anybody that wants to go there, there's a assessment that you can do to find out where do you lie on the scale of visionary versus integrator, and see what you're most proficient at.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that, man. I know where you're at, know your weaknesses, know your strengths.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. So now all of a sudden we implement EOS and well, I think we should go to the next phase of it, because I feel like most people in the construction space in particular, private equity is big on it right now.
Yeah.
It's one thing AI can't take over, at least entirely. Right. And there's a lot of exits going on right now, a lot of acquisitions going up in HVAC, roofing, service industries in particular.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk about one, what should business owners look at prior to an exit and things they need to have kind of in place? And then kind of just talk about even the road to exiting. What does that look like for a small business, like making 5 to 20 million a year?
Yeah.
Just talk to that process.
Yeah, 100%. So, there's a model that I use often, which is, there are 4 pillars to any successful business, right? You need to have the right people, you need to have cash flow, you need to have execution, you need to have strategy, right? Okay. And in all of those 4, when you look at for an exit or preparing for an exit, your number one is probably your biggest issue is going to be people.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that number one, the business not dependent on you.
Yeah.
And number 2, you have a team that can run the business day to day.
So let's stop there for a second. Yes. I preach this a lot. I want to hear it through your words, the difference and what that means on a multiplier by having a business. I always say, are you a business owner or a business operator? Right. If I'm the business operator, the business needs me to succeed. Talk about like a multiplier, like, so I'm a $5 million company at, let's just call it 20% EBITDA. What's the difference between having that company with the right people, right seats, processes, systems, not relying on the owner versus something that's owner reliant?
Yeah, so it's there's a bell curve, right? There's a bell curve of value. When you go to the left part of that bell curve, your multiple is zero because it's not sellable. And by the way, sellable means from the eye of a buyer,
Yeah.
right? Is there something there that I can operate without you being in it?
Yeah.
Right. So from that perspective, if I am a highly dependent business owner, depending on me, that is. Whatever multiple range you have in your industry, may it be from a 2 to 6, right? I don't know what it is in the roofing, but
8 to 13.
8 to 13
with processes and people and systems.
Okay, so to the 8, that's probably the 50%, right? That's the starting point, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you're not sellable, then you don't even make the 8.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if I'm all of the business, then why would I even pay 8 on EBITDA?
Right.
Right.
Basically buying the brand, if anything, or the name.
Right. So how much is that worth? Right. So when you look at there's 4 intangibles that really add the value of your business, right? Number one is you're going to have to have the right people, right? So that's the people. Make sure that you have a leadership team that you can extract yourself from the day to day. The second is going to be your customer. To what degree is your customer sticky, recurring, coming back to you, right? The third is going to be structural. Make sure your processes documented, your financials in order. Yeah. One of the biggest problems is that a lot of owners operate on a cash basis, right? Yeah. You got to go back to accrual. You got to go back to GAAP, right? And you have to normalize your EBITDA because we know that we put a lot through our business in terms of expenses. So as a buyer, would I do that? Yeah. Probably not. Yeah. So there's certain things that you have to normalize your EBITDA to get to a point where, okay, that makes sense from a buyer's perspective. And the last one is really cultural. Make sure that to what degree is your goodwill, is your reputation in the market enhancing your brand and your name and your company. And also from a employee perspective, I want to work with them. Yeah. Right. I want to hire them as a customer, but also want to work with them. So those are the 4 big things that really impact.
It's funny you went into the financial side because, and I know most business owners, like you said, aren't numbers people for the most part. Most of the successful ones I have met have some sort of accounting background or at least joined to the hip with their CFO. Yeah. But it's kind of funny, like not even funny, it's sad actually. When most of the small business owners I get in with, even my own, we had an accountant one time, and it took me 6 months for my CFO to undo the chart of accounts and to put the financials in order. And this is allegedly with the professional setting it up to begin with, right? And it's just so bizarre to me how people run businesses not knowing the numbers. It's almost like this like thumb in the air kind of asset test of like, let's just improv it versus this is real business.
And in the construction business, even more important because you have huge amount of cogs, right? Yeah. I mean, if you have reworks, that's a big thing, right? You have to come back. You do something wrong the first time, you come back, that costs money, right? So inventory is a problem. You may have some stuff on the site. You may have some in the warehouse. You may have some in a different warehouse on a different job. So a lot of these things are important to track. Yeah. And understanding the numbers is the foundation to be able to understand what are the levers for cash flow. Yeah. Because there are 7 of them. Yeah. All management teams should be focused on those, right? There's 4 of them on the income statement and 3 of them on the balance sheets, right? But unless you have your financials that make sense, that are gapped.
Can you list those 7 for me?
Yeah. So on the income statement, you want to drive revenue. There's 2 ways. You can sell more at the same price, or you can sell the same with more pricing, right? So increase your pricing. You can decrease your cost of goods sold, and you can decrease your OPEX. That affects your net profit.
Yes, sir.
On the balance sheet, you're going to have your inventory, your accounts receivables, accounts payables. Yep. Right? Those are the 3 there. So those 7 levers actually, depending on you. So I use a tool called Cash Flow Stories. Yep.
I love that.
Familiar with it? Yeah. Where it actually takes the DNA of your company and it says, through the power of 1, which is the one that's going to have the most impact? Yeah. Because oftentimes we think that there's actually a tension between cost of goods sold and OPEX. Most people say, hey, I'm going to I'm going to decrease my OPEX.
Yeah.
When you go through this exercise, most times it's actually your cost of goods sold that has the biggest impact in terms of your cash flow.
And it's interesting how just a small degree of change affects cash flow
Yes,
exponentially.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the same thing, same relationship between volume and pricing,
Yeah.
right? Most people are reluctant to increase your pricing, but want to sell more and more, more. Actually, most times it's increasing your pricing has a bigger impact on your cash flow. So those are the things. The foundation of that has to be your financials. They have to be done well, closed by the end of each month. The 10th of each month, so that you can review it. Understanding that those are past numbers, right?
Yeah.
You need to have some triggers so that you can look forward.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about this personally as well. And I know I'm going to be using you in short order for this exact reason, but can you kind of talk about your experience with exiting, especially in the construction space, and kind of your history around that? Because I think it's important for people to understand there's steps.
Yeah.
There's some things to prepare.
Yeah.
It's not just the measurables that you just said, but there's steps to exit.
Absolutely.
And can you kind of walk me through that, especially around the construction space or your experience around it?
Yeah. So just to be absolutely clear, I don't do the actual transaction, right?
Yes.
So I work with. This is a collaborative effort.
Yes.
M&A people are specialists at that.
Yes.
That's what they do. I prepare the companies to get the maximum valuation,
Yes.
maximum multiple.
Yes.
So that typically takes about 3 years.
Yeah.
So I have a formula. I have a model that's called build a 3-year build to transfer roadmap.
Yep.
And we start with first year is to actually make sure that we build your team.
Yeah.
So everything I was talking about before, owner dependency, leadership team, that's year one. Year two is maximize. Get as much as you can on your growth, so that you can, because the higher you go in terms of actual top line,
Yeah.
it actually, once you get to certain thresholds, right? 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, right? You have multiples automatically jump.
Yeah.
And then the third one is get ready for transfer.
Yeah.
Prepare for transfer. So that's more of the, hey, do you have all of your documents in line? If you have key person, do you have that covered?
Yeah.
Do you have your partnership operating agreements all lined up? Do you have all of these things that are important in the due diligence?
Yeah.
Your financials,
Yeah.
are they all lined up, ready to go? Have you done your quality of earnings, right? So all that takes us to prepare, ready. I hit my number. I'm ready to talk to an M&A person.
Yeah.
And then we start with the transaction. Understanding that the 3 years of preparation, how long does it take for a company to actually sell? Anywhere from 9 to 12 months, right?
Especially depending on finding the right buyer, right? Because before you get, even if you get an LOI, there's some due diligence and forensics that need to happen. Is it a cultural fit? Is this the right partnership? Just because you got an offer doesn't mean that it's going to be the best offer.
Yeah, 100%. And an IOI precedes the LOI, and that's probably important too.
Yeah.
Right? Just, are we in the same ballpark or not? Right? Just to get, because once you sign the LOI, you've committed. You've basically given over all of your leverage to the other person, the buyer, who's going to start looking at due diligence, and whatever number you agree to, that's your high watermark.
Yeah.
And then they're going to start discounting whatever it is that you have that they found.
So let me ask you some of this. Now I'm going to get into a little bit of personal. Like, who would you credit as your some of the best mentorship or the best people that have molded you? And then what are some of the 2 or 3 pearls that you kind of stole from them?
Yeah.
I stole quite a bit from you, and plagiarized and call them my own. But I was kind of curious of, like, who are your mentors and who are your teachers in life?
Amazing. Thanks for the question, because it's going to bring me down memory lane. The first is my father.
Okay.
When I came after my MBA, signature barely dry, got to the Congo, there was high inflation. And I remember my father giving paycheck, but also giving commodities, right? Tuna, chicken, rice, because the devaluation of the money every week had a huge impact. And he took care of them that way.
Yeah.
Fast forward, there was an uprising, and we got evacuated from the Congo at the time. And my wife worked for the U.S. Embassy. Her evacuation bus drove in front of our factory. To the left and to the right of our factory the buildings were burning, our building in front of it were our employees taking care of the factory.
Okay.
So the message for me has always been take care of your employees because you don't know how they're going to pay you back.
Right.
So number one lesson I learned from my father is take care of your employees.
Love that.
Second is my first boss, John Martin, a guy that was a family friend actually, and he was tough as nails. He did not let me slide in any way, and I learned discipline. I learned just grit from him. Um, and the third is you need to have a moral compass. You need to have a guiding light that tells you what's right from wrong.
Yeah.
You're a spiritual person. I am as well. You need to have some kind of compass, a moral compass. So I would say that those are the big three lessons that I pulled.
Yeah.
That are my guiding light to how I conduct business.
I love that. And if you're talking to a young entrepreneur out there and just pearls of wisdom, do you have like one or two or three favorite quotes that you have in order to like kind of to live by or things to know? Like I always talk about like one of the things I steal a lot is proximity. Stole that from Tony Robbins. Like Bill Gates is Bill Gates because his parents were on the board. Proximity and influences and your sphere is huge. I talk about right people, right seat. There's this quote from Traction I love. It says, vision without traction is merely hallucination. I love that quote.
Yeah.
So are there like quotes like that or things that you live by?
I think that I have more behaviors. Curiosity is one. Don't think you know it all.
I love that.
Right. Be curious. Look for the nuggets that you can pull from anybody.
Okay.
Right. And number two is be humble.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have humility, it's going to be very tough.
Yeah. People don't identify to perfection anyway, right? If I say I struggled with cash or I had, or I didn't know how I was going to make payroll this month, or, people identify to that as business owners.
Absolutely.
They don't identify to people that just kind of like just took off and never had any struggles.
Gosh, it's so interesting in a lot of the jobs I had, I call it the corporate mask.
Okay.
Right? You have to have this facade of being Mr. America.
Yeah.
Right? You can't show weakness to your employees. You certainly cannot show weakness to any of your colleagues.
Right.
And even less to your boss.
Yeah.
Right? So what happens in that type of environment is that you built a culture of not open and honest,
Right.
but of total concealment.
Yeah.
And once you have that, you can't build an organization. That's called politics, by the way.
Yeah.
That's where you don't have the ability to say, I'm humble enough to understand, hey, I made an error.
Yeah.
Ed, you know more than I do. Please help me out here.
Yes.
Right? Because once you have that, then you can make forward. Then you can make progress. You're vulnerable.
Yeah. Also empowers other people to speak their mind and to tell you where we're at, and that helps you put a flashlight on some of the weaknesses, even organizationally. If you don't have that, people are just going to be yes sir people.
Yes, 100%. There's a model called from Pat Lencioni, the 5 dysfunctions of a leadership team.
Okay.
It talks a lot about the number one. And by the way, anybody that has not read that book has to be on your reading list, right?
Yeah.
Pat Lencioni talks about the first basis of any kind of teamwork is actually trust.
Yeah.
The way he defines trust is not trust that I know what you're going to do. It's trust that I'm being vulnerable. I'm willing to say, I don't know it all. I'm humble. I need help, right? I messed up. I'm going to fix it, right? So the quotes are more behaviors that I would refer to.
Awesome, man. And I guess last but not least, some of the same shameless shout outs. If people want to work with Franck and learn EOS and get an implementer and really try to get under the hood of their company and discover, discard and just learn really, right? Because that's one of the things I said about you. You've been one of my greatest teachers, especially at this phase of life. How do we find you?
Thank you. So a few things. Number one, buildtotransfer.com is my website.
Okay.
EOS is a tool I use. I use Value Builder as well. I use Cash Flow Stories. So I start my process with the discovery first to understand what the problems are, right? Then I go into the process of how do we solve that problem. So Build to Transfer is number one. Number two is that I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Franck Saragossi. Those are two main ways.
And we'll have backlinks to your socials at the end of this podcast as well, guys.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it. Brother, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I love all the pearls, man. I even got some more takeaways, which is rare. And stay blessed, man. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Ed. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Pain points. Are you stuck in that $3 to $10 million year-over-year revenue? Roofs in a Box is your all-in-one growth partner for modern construction companies. They combine AI, virtual staffing, and CRM solutions to help streamline operations. Replace your high fixed overhead with cost-effective systems and support. They empower you to run a smarter, leaner business, freeing up capital where it matters most. Mention this ad to save 10% on your next Roofs in a Box purchase. This episode of Pain Points is brought to you by Ringba. If your business relies on phone calls, you need to be working with them. Their technology will help you get the most money out of your marketing campaigns. Their call exchange, Ringba X, can deliver inbounds on demand to help grow your customer base. Now, I want to be transparent. Ringba and Adam did pay me to deliver that message, but I'm also a customer, and I've watched them help dozens of companies become more successful over the years. So if you sell a product or service over the phone, I guarantee a moment with their team will be worth it.